The town had lived peacefully for years, but no one dared to talk about the dark secret hidden deep in the river. According to legend, the waters of the river once imprisoned the soul of a powerful sorcerer, and that spirit's anger still lingers there. One day, Emily, a young girl, was wandering by the river and found an old wooden box covered in moss. When she opened the box, inside was an old diary filled with strange symbols. Succumbing to her curiosity, Emily started reading the diary. The diary talked about a dark swamp beyond the river and the terrible creatures that lived there. Under the influence of the diary, Emily decided to go beyond the river and explore the swamp. One night, in the light of the full moon, he set out with a lantern in his hand and great courage in his heart. She walked along the river, amidst the swish of water and the sound of frogs. As she approached the end of the river, she saw that the swamp was dark and covered with thick fog. The moment he stepped into the swamp, the air around him grew cold and everything became quiet. With each step, his feet became heavier and the muddy ground of the swamp tried to suck him in. After a while, she heard an eerie voice, "Go away! This is not your place." However, Emily ignored this voice and continued forward. As he moved deeper into the swamp, the fog around him thickened and his field of vision narrowed. Suddenly, a large, shapeless shadow appeared in front of Emily. This was one of the creatures the diary mentioned. Emily tried to retreat in terror, but her feet were stuck in the mud. As Shadow approached Emily, she felt out of breath. Finally, Emily gathered her strength and tried to return, but the swamp wouldn't let her go. With every step, she realized she was sinking deeper and deeper. At that moment, she remembered the teachings of an old shaman by the river. She quickly turned the pages of the diary and read an ancient spell written on one page. This spell was a spell that would calm the dark forces of the swamp. The sound of the swamp stopped for a moment as Emily read the prayers. The shadow receded and the mist eased. With a last-ditch effort, Emily managed to escape the swamp and make it back to the safety of the river. However, the dark secret of the swamp and the wizard's curse remained there. Emily couldn't tell anyone about the horror she experienced because no one would believe her. Over the years, the townspeople forgot about Emily's adventure. But the waters of the river continued to hide their dark secrets, and the swamp groaned with Emily's echoing screams in the middle of the night. Emily took her place among the town's unforgettable stories as a hero who solved the secret of a terrible swamp but forever carries the scar of that darkness. Emily had never been able to return to her old self since returning from the swamp. The townspeople looked at him with pity, but he could not tell anyone what he had experienced. He woke up with nightmares at night, and the dark shadows of the swamp did not leave him alone. Every time he heard the approaching steps of that terrifying creature and felt its cold breath on his neck point one day, an old sage came to town. He was a wise man who was interested in the supernatural and knew ancient secrets. As soon as he heard about Emily's events, he decided to visit the young girl. Emily told the sage all her experiences, and the sage said there might be a solution to end this curse. The sage told Emily that the only way to break the curse was to go back to the heart of the swamp and put the soul of the wizard hiding there to eternal rest. Accepting this dangerous mission, Emily started preparations with the wise man. The sage gave Emily protective talismans and a powerful spell book. At midnight, Emily and the sage came to the riverside. The moonlight cast an eerie glow on the river. They set out from the riverbank towards the swamp. When they reached the swamp, the fog began to thicken again. However, this time, Emily was a little more courageous with the sage on her side. As they moved deeper into the swamp, they came to an old stone altar. This altar was the place that bound the sorcerer's soul. The sage told Emily to open the spell book to a specific page and read the prayers written on it. While Emily did what the wise man said, the air around them became heavy and the dark shadows from the swamp began to appear again. As Emily recited the prayers, the dark shadows began to retreat. However, the wizard's soul did not want to surrender easily. Suddenly, a huge storm broke out and dark forces began to attack Emily and the sage. The sage defended themselves using protective talismans, but the powers were too intense. With one last dare, Emily opened the back page of the spell book and started reciting the most powerful spell. This was a spell that would completely free the wizard's soul and end the curse of the swamp. While Emily was reciting the spell, a beam of light rose from the altar and illuminated the surroundings. The wizard's soul rose into the sky in peace, and the dark forces retreated. The swamp was suddenly quiet and the air was clear. Emily took a deep breath and looked at the sage. The sage nodded in agreement and said, "You did it, Emily. You ended the curse." When they returned to town, Emily and the sage were greeted as great heroes. Emily was now free of her nightmares, and the river was back to its former peaceful state. The townspeople never forgot Emily's courage and the sage's wisdom. Throughout the years, Emily's story has been passed down from generation to generation. The river and the swamp no longer held a dark secret. Emily became legendary as the hero who ended the curse of a terrible swamp, and the town honored this brave girl's name. While Emily's story echoed in the town, Emily tried to continue her life calmly. However, peace did not last long. One night, Emily's knock on the door, returning from the swamp, broke the silence. There was no one at the door, but he found an old amulet on the doorstep. This amulet was the same as the symbols he had seen in the swamp. Emily decided to consult the sage. The sage examined the amulet carefully and sighed deeply. "This amulet shows that the dark forces of the swamp are still active," she said. "It seems that the wizard's soul has not found complete peace, and another dark being has awakened in the depths of the swamp." Emily knew she had to stop this dark entity. The sage suggested to Emily that she should not go alone this time, but should form a group of strong and brave young people of the town. So Emily gathered a team of the town's bravest teenagers: Michael, Sarah, John, and Kate. The team set out towards the swamp, taking the spells and talismans they learned from the sage. This time, they were aware of a danger waiting for them on the banks of the river. They moved forward in the darkness of the night, in the flickering light of the lanterns. When they arrived at the swamp, the air suddenly turned cold and a thick fog covered everything. As the group moved deeper into the swamp, they began to hear strange sounds. These voices were trying to scare them, but the team moved forward with determination. Suddenly, they found an ancient cave entrance hidden under a large tree. While entering the cave, they protected themselves by using the talismans given by the wise man. In the depths of the cave, there was a dark pool and a shining ancient stone in the middle of the pool. The stone was the key to controlling the dark forces of the swamp. Emily approached the stone and began to recite the last spell she had learned from the sage. But just then, a dark figure appeared. It was part of the sorcerer's cursed soul. As the figure was about to attack Emily, the team worked together to try to stop it. While Michael and John fought the figure, Sarah and Kate created a shield around Emily to protect her. As Emily was about to complete the spell, the figure attacked Emily in a final effort. However, thanks to Michael's brave move, the figure retreated and Emily completed the spell. The stone glowed with a bright light and the figure disappeared. The cave fell silent and the dark forces over the swamp disappeared forever. The team emerged from the cave tired but triumphant. When they returned to the town, the people welcomed them with great enthusiasm. Emily and her team became the town's new heroes. After this adventure, Emily lived a peaceful life in the town. The swamp was no longer a scary place, but was considered a part of nature. The townspeople always remembered and honored the bravery of Emily and her friends. Over the years, Emily's story was told to the town's children. Emily has been remembered not only as a hero, but also as a wise leader. The mystery of the swamp was solved, and the town continued to live a peaceful life thanks to the sacrifices of Emily and her friends.
You can come to my channel to watch the whole thing, and don't forget to subscribe.